Hypothetical situation. A fellow runs into a crowded public place with a machine gun and kills several people before being gunned down and killed by local law enforcement. The ensuing investigation unearths his personal journal, in which several of the previous entries talk of the apparent need for a blood sacrifice to appease the wrath of God. At first it seems that by sacrifice he is referring to his own death. But further investigation reveals his conviction that God has called upon him to sacrifice a multitude of others. All those people he gunned down, he didn't see those as deaths, but as sacrifices. Is this choice of words accurate? Well, let's consider that. Was this a sacrifice for any of the other people who died by his actions that day? Is it a sacrifice to be the victim of mass murder? I rather doubt it. Is it a sacrifice to perpetrate mass murder? I'm compelled to doubt that as well. What constitutes a sacrifice? Let's consider it for a moment. An act is a sacrifice when one willingly gives up something one doesn't want to give up. One common example of this the Christians are fond of citing is found in the story of Abraham. Abraham takes Isaac up on the mountain to sacrifice him, we are told, because God commanded the sacrifice of him. He didn't want to do it, but he was willing because he wanted to abide God's will. Many a Christian practices sacrifice on the occasion of Lent. During Lent, many Christians make their best attempt at going 40 days and 40 nights without something dear to them, something intimately woven into their lives. Some give up television, although nowadays that's not such a sacrifice. Some give up their game systems. Some even give up driving. But the key is that it has to be by choice, and it has to be something it won't be easy to give up. What if someone promised to give up tobacco and alcohol for 40 days and 40 nights? How much meaning would this have? Well, it depends. If the individual in question smokes like a chimney and drinks like a fish, this sacrifice has a great deal of meaning. How much value would this act have from someone like me? Well, since I never have any use for alcohol or tobacco, none. What if instead I were to take this individual who smokes like a chimney and drinks like a fish and somehow find a way to force him or her to do without for this length of time? Would this be a sacrifice for me? No. This would just be me being a jackass, to put it mildly. Would this be a sacrifice for this other person? No, because it's not by choice. It's only a sacrifice if the individual giving something up is doing so by choice. That wasn't a killing spree. It was a sacrificing spree. I didn't kill those people. I sacrificed them. Now look at the death of Christ. A death we are told was a necessary sacrifice in order for us to be forgiven for a sin committed centuries earlier by people long dead, lest the punishment for that sin be passed on to countless generations yet to be born. There were two parties involved here, not just one. The party of the first part was the party from whom he was taken, and the party of the second part was the party who did the taking. The party of the first part did not choose his death. The party of the second part had no reservations about it. All the reservations resided with one party, and the decision resided with the other. The party of the first part gave him up only because the party of the second part forced them to. They did not have a choice. This was not a sacrifice for the first party because it was against their will, and it wasn't a sacrifice for the second party because they had no reservations about doing it. For the first party, this was nothing more than a loss. A tragic loss perhaps, but a loss, not a sacrifice. For the second, it was nothing more than a task, something on their to-do list. Maybe some of them were looking forward to it, maybe not. But in either case, it was certainly not a sacrifice for them either. Can two parties for whom a certain event was clearly not a sacrifice be combined in such a way that it becomes one? By what standard was this a sacrifice?